So hello, welcome everybody. If you have not been here at least twice, I would love an introduction. You're not required to, but it'd be great to go around. And those who have been here a couple times, hello, welcome. It's great to see you again.
Oh, we should also point out that these meetings are recorded and will be posted to YouTube.
Yep.
We can cross-link to DPP's CATS channels.
They don't have YouTube accounts yet, but I am on unemployment, so
I expect to see a lot more cat pictures then. I can vicariously enjoy the fun you're having, at least with cat pics. So let's see. I think I'm going to call on a few people who I don't recognize, which also might just be my poor memory. But Andrew Block, I don't see you from our previous attendee lists. Is this your first or second time on the call? And if so, do you want to do an intro?
First time on the call. Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Block. I'm a distinguished architect with Red Hat. I've been working with a number of different folks from the security SIG as well, and Software Foundation, Secure Software Foundation, and just looking to see what kind of cool stuff we're putting together here.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew, and welcome. So anybody else your first or second time here?
well, technically this is my second time here, but I guess I'm a fixture, or at least my cats are.
Great to have you back, and your cats, David.
Yeah, you look unfamiliar, but the cats I remember.
Awesome. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get started. I think, Ed, the first actual topic was yours.
Well, it's sort of mine. Let me go ahead and share the agenda, because that often helps focus the mind. Currently, host is disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, let me fix that. Thank you.
Which is often a really good default choice in public meetings, but
should be enabled now.
Perfect. So, basically, a quick reminder to folks, we've got sort of an ongoing discussion about reaching out to language and tool communities, build tool communities. Some of that we've sort of been doing progressively as we go along, and we have some folks here who are involved in Rust. Various conversations have happened with Go and Java and other things. We have some demos here in the LLVM space as well. And we previously identified from some of the work that we'll see in bomsh that we probably are going to need to reach out to bin utils and elf utils as well. But sort of as folks come across more build communities that you think might be interested, or language communities, please do raise them here so we can reach out a friendly hand.
On that topic, I'd also like to point out packaging communities.
Oh, yes.
Earlier today, I ran into some of the Rust crates.io folks who are very interested in seeing what we're doing. But I don't see them on this call, but with half an hour's notice, I can't blame them for not clearing their schedule. Anyone have thoughts, questions, updates on that topic? How do we reach out? Do you have any connections that you want to offer to reach out to? Should we make this a subgroup, or?
Ed, could you add, or if there's a link to somewhere where you're tracking all of these, where places you want to contact or places you have contacted, and not just you, but in general? Because right now you might get a bunch of duplicate entries, like everybody going, oh my gosh, you should totally talk to the POCs people, right? And so it'd be good to.
This is an excellent suggestion. This is an excellent suggestion. I'll go get that going. I do not yet have a place like that, and obviously we need one.
Yep. I would suggest either a Google Doc, or perhaps better yet, a spreadsheet, Google spreadsheet. The domain, the person in this group who's doing, sort of responsible for that update or that work, and who they reached out to, being mindful of not sharing PII without consent. Does that work for you, Ed and Vicky?
That works for me. And you know, the thing is, even if you're not sharing precisely who's been reached out to yet, because again, PII and whatnot, just knowing who in the community has a connection in that direction is going to be helpful.
And that will also give us something to review in future meetings. So we can make sure everything is still moving.
Also a very good point and very correct.
Great. Cool. Okay. On to the proofs of concept. Yongquai, I think you would be first here. Do you want to give us a longer intro and demo on bomsh, which looks awesome, and I can't wait to see more of it?
Sure. Sure. Let me share my screen.
I'll stop sharing.
Yeah.
So, and again, while the screen sharing is going on, do note we have links to the repos, so you can actually go and kick the tires yourself, and or even better, contribute.
I'm sharing. Can you see the screen? I'm sharing.
We can.
Could you increase the font size?
Okay, sure.
Command plus might do it.
And Yongquai, how do you feel about 20 minutes for this? Do you think that'll be enough?
Sure, 10 minutes sounds good. Yes, so here, let me first show our open source Git repo. So this Git repo, we have open source publicly available here. You can read the README. It contains a lot of like tutorials, examples for you to play with the tools. So basically you have a few tools together. And I will show just two basic examples here. See. Okay, so here I just have a script here. So basically, this. Let's see. Okay, that's better. So this script you can see is basically 3 commands. So first you run this bomsh command with your make command or RPM build command. It's just rebuild from source RPM for the host name RPM. So this will basically run the S-trace, and it will just watch the execve syscall and then record all the commands that's evoked via that syscall. So that's basically the shell command. So this command, when you do the software build, will record all the shell commands. And for the interested command, we'll do some shell command analysis, find out the input field and the output file. And then we create raw log information. Then the next script is a Python script just to create a bomb from this hook raw log file. And you also can analyze create a gitbom for your RPM package. Then the third step is just using the creating gitbom documents, and we do the search CVE functionality. Here I actually just using an empty hostname CVE database. It's just an empty database because we don't have CVE, but this can show the whole gitbom artifact tree. So I can just run this bomsh script, then it will automatically do the build. It take a few, like 10, 20 seconds like that. You'll see. should be, this is very small RPM, so it should take a very short time. I also already prebuilt for the Linux kernel. It's same bomsh run command. You can see here, I just replace that RPM build with Linux kernel build and do the same thing. We create a bomb from the raw log file, and then we do the search. So I can quickly show you the. So essentially, we are just for a software build, we just trying to log this raw information. So for each build command or shell command, you can see GC command here, we figure out which one is the output file, which one is the input file, and then we based on this information, you can see for all the steps, so what we do for a software build, just in addition to a software build, we just generate this raw information file. And then based on this one, right, for example, this is create the final BT image Linux kernel. It's basically from a few of these files, llvm-gitbom. Then we will be to search. Just can see. I just think just run this. So if you just run this, it will. Interesting. Yeah, then the result will just be saved in the details. So you can see we keep the whole history of your software build. So basically you will see for this image, the whole artifact tree in different levels. For example, each of these, it will track down each .c file. And for the CVE thing you can see. So on this tree, these file paths and CVE list is just a metadata attached to this artifact tree. For each checksum, git hash of those internal node or the leaf node of our gitbom hash tree. So that's the final result we build.
So I think you may have glossed over something that I hope you'll come back to, which is how you're constructing your CVE databases, but we can come back to that later. But it's a very cool thing.
Yeah, sure. We can come back. Yeah, there we have slides actually. You can take a look at the end of this README. We have the slides that you can just take a look. So it had a few slides talking about CVE creation, database creation. Let's see. I think I have too many windows that I opened. So you can see. Yeah, I can do this actually. You can see this is a JSON file I have created for the search. So if you do just I think this, I have different search result. You can see this is through the gitbom database. So each line is just one line in the gitbom document. Also, yeah, you can see this is for the final CVE, right? This is it will contain this some information, metadata attached to this artifact tree, know which gitbom file, which file according which CVE.
Yeah, so this is actually a really good example of being able to support all kinds of different sorts of metadata that could attach itself at various places to get, by reference in the gitbom tree. So it can sort of reference a place in the gitbom tree and say, okay, this is things that I know that don't properly belong in the gitbom tree, like the file name, because file names change all the time. But if you're actually a human working with it, it's super helpful to be able to see some of this information.
Yeah, that's right. So if you see, basically, yeah, all the commands are here. So you can actually based on the dot. This is where we save all the. You can see. Oh, this is maybe too many. There are too many of those for the data. Let's check the smaller one, the host name. Yeah. So we save everything here. So this is smaller one. So you can see we only have a few gitbom document created for this one. And we keep this raw log file as metadata, also the tree, hash tree database as a metadata file here. Also, we keep a mapping from all the generated out file to its gitbom bomb ID. So we keep everything. For example, if you check objects, these, right, you'll see what we have stored here. And also I think I already put down with the bin. So I already have the host name here. So if you check, we already automatically saved the, you can see we have 20 bytes hex binary here, stored at .bomb section in the host name binary. Yeah, basically, after you run those 3 commands, right? We have
it's probably worth
everything. Yeah.
It's probably worth pointing out if you could scroll up a little bit to where you have the files being shown. That you've got sort of the where you were showing the .bomb/object and the .bomb/metadata.
Yes.
If you could scroll up a little bit to, if you could scroll up a little to where you had the files shown.
You just
listed the files.
RPM directory.
Right. When you were just listing the files. Were you just listing the files where they were in the various directories?
Yeah, this is
so a little further up. Yeah, no. A little further up where you had .bomb/object/ the name of the file and .bomb/metadata/
here, right? This one.
Yep. Yeah. So one thing worth really noting here is that you've got the sort of the bare gitbom tree stored in a place where other tools can learn to go pick it up that know nothing about bomsh. But then bomsh has all kinds of tasty metadata that it's computed. That if you understand that you're dealing with bomsh, or if you're bomsh itself, you can go and recover this metadata and use it for other purposes.
Yeah, two things to jump in there. One is that the directory format and file format, we should probably start that standards discussion, since I notice a few differences here, both this structure versus Git's structure and versus what Frederick has done. It's not quite the same.
Yeah, we know that.
And in your demos or your sort of top level macro scripts, you clear out the entire directory, which would make this not work in a chain. Right, you have rm.rf.gitbom as one of the steps in your top level scripts. So we've got about 5 minutes left in this. I'd love to switch to open questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, any question? Yeah, so most information are in this readme document. You can play with the tool. So for example, how we generate the gitbom documents, it's also mentioned here. So for example, this is the way how we generate the gitbom documents. That's the algorithm we use. And also basically what metadata mentioned also here. It's everything is a Python script. So the bomb trees, it just do very simple thing. It just log the shell command, nothing more. And it evoke a hookup script. That hookup script is also just a Python script. So everything is a high level Python script. So you can easily modify script to play with whatever you want.
Looks like all of the scripts are in the /scripts directory, and then you've got some demos or examples in other directories like Java and source. Have you attempted to profile this? Like, how different is the performance building the kernel
Yes.
with or without instrumentation?
Yeah, it's roughly twice.
That's not too
Twice
bad.
the build time. Yeah. So basically, it's S-trace overhead. Then some, I'm not sure, 20% of the 20% of the overhead for our script now. But basically, yeah, just 2 or 3 times of the regular build time. If compared to S-trace, it's not so much more because basically it's just we are computing the git hash. Other than that, some analysis of the shell command. So not too much overhead actually.
I see Brandon's hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had 2 questions actually. One related to kind of some of the output you showed with the gitbom tree, and then another about the CV database.
Okay. Sure.
So I guess I'll start the CV database. I'm kind of wondering what is kind of like the data sources that you're using, how you're deriving this, given the CVs
the
generally don't
CVE,
map to
yeah.
files. Yeah.
The CVE database is we have a script called bomsh create CVE script, but that's just some like proof concept script, not accurate for CVE database. So it basically scan your whole Git repo and grab on your Git commit message and find the CVE keyword and then find all of them, and then based on that, we decide that this is the CVE fix, and then everything, all the Git hash before that commit for this file, it contains this CVE vulnerability. Yeah, after that is fixed. So it's not so accurate, but it can show this proof of concept, right? So we have another -R option for you to manually specify accurate mapping from your Git hash to the CVE list. So that will be accurate, but it will depend on manual, running that using that option to show you the results, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Gotcha. And my other question was on the gitbom kind of artifact tree that you were showing. I saw like in the leaf notes, there's like metadata there. I'm wondering, like, is the usage because I can imagine a leaf node, multiple people may have different amounts of metadata. Is it something that how?
Yeah. So metadata.
You're kind of wandering back to the point I was making about the object versus the metadata directories.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. So we put everything there. You can add more if you want. So
so basically, the tool-specific metadata you would put in the metadata directory, and it's not that's the tool maker's business. The gitbom itself, which is meant to be minimal and portable, those would be put in the gitbom objects directory, so that you could actually have other tools pick them up. The other tools don't need to understand necessarily the other metadata. They just have to be able to pick up the gitbom tree and move it along.
Okay, so the metadata is kind of a different sub-object that you then take these two things together.
Yeah,
and it's expected, depending on the tools that people are dealing with, they'll have different opinions as to what metadata actually matters to them, and that's perfectly natural. The point is, if you keep the metadata separate from the artifact tree, it can always refer into the artifact tree. But exactly as you were saying, if you mix all the metadata into the artifact tree, then you can get entirely different results for the same output binary. And you would like it to be the case that we're striving for what I think we call artifact tree singularity, which is for a given artifact, you have exactly one artifact tree.
That exactly answers my question.
Yeah, we have -m
we are just about time on this one.
Database. Yeah, so you can pick
I notice David's hand is up. So sorry to have to cut this off, but I do want to get to our agenda. David, was your question clear?
It actually is related to the stuff that Ed was just talking about. And that what is a this gets into a metaphysical question of what is a singular artifact, and also versioning questions about what was the version of the system that created the particular artifact. Do we also want to have version information as part of the object tree? Because, for example, if we go from SHA-256 to some mumbly foo SHA in the future, do we want to make sure that there's compatibility across them? In other words, knowing
Right now it's metadata.
David, to your,
Yeah.
I felt like I knew where you were going, the question of versioning of the tooling, because compiler version does affect or could affect the artifact singularity here. And I think we do need to track things like compiler version in the metadata, but not in the actual BOM tree, and also come up with some sort of a standard way to propagate that so that tooling that's looking at this can understand, you know, this component was built with GCC version foo, and that subsequent build step used the Rust compiler version bar. We've got to be able to track that in some way.
Well, and ideally even be able to get the gitbom ID of the compiler in use as well. So because the compiler, the build tool case is really interesting in the sense that it's important metadata about the artifact built, but it would be incorrect to simply graft the build tools tree into as a child of the thing that was built. So you need to capture it with a little more nuance. And I've added a couple items to the agenda so we can loop back and probably end up following up next week on some of this, because I think both of those points are super important. But I am also respectful of the fact that Ava is trying to run a tight ship.
Thank you all. I wrote in the chat that I think we're going to need to spin up a second meeting so that we can continue the sort of community discussion here with demos and outreach, and move some of the standards discussion into a second meeting where we can hammer out some of these sort of nuances, you know, the file format, which metadata is canonical and which is auxiliary, things like that. So can I just get a quick show of like thumbs or hands up, like who agrees and wants to join that one?
I would definitely be interested in joining. I'm a little bit curious to see how the timing works out in the next few weeks, though, and how much, because our meetings right now, the community meetings have been insanely busy, which is awesome. There's a lot of stuff going on, but they may quiet down after a few weeks and have the space for the standards discussions that we're wanting to have. So I don't know whether I feel like another meeting is the right move or just working it in as things calm down in the broader community. Okay. I'm pretty much open either way. What I would hope to avoid is a situation where we get a focus shift where the community meetings die down to not having a lot going on because we moved all the focus into a different meeting.
I think it's a reasonable concern. I don't have a great sense yet whether the excitement here would shift or just both, you know, ¿por qué no los dos? But keeping on track with time, I think our next demo is Bharati talking about claim.
It's going to be rather pretty much the same as the last week. Now, there's not much additions in terms of the implementation. So do you want me to go ahead and give the demo again, or if other topics are a priority?
No, if it's the same demo you had, and I think folks who missed it can go see the recording.
Yeah. Or
so do you want to talk a little bit about kind of some of the forward-looking stuff you're looking in places where
I can
you might want collaboration?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
the
immediate next steps that I have in mind are basically, like I said, I'm piggybacking on the passing of -md option to compute the dependencies. It would be nice to just not have to pass that option to keep the BOM changes independent of the need of other options. And also, I definitely need to do more testing, planning to do it on some large Cisco code base itself as a way to stress test the current implementation. And also, this is currently done only for the C++ headers. So if you look into C++, like module dependencies, that will have to be extended on top of the current one. And then lastly, this is only the compiler changes. This would be incomplete without associated changes to the linker. Clang compiled objects are linked using both GNU linkers as well as LLD. Both are quite popular choice of linkers. So I will look into LLD first, and I'm sure there is a need to have it for the GNU linker as well for folks to be able to experiment it in their environment if they are not using LLD. So this is these are some of the tasks looking forward.
So is it worth talking a little bit about how you split the work out between the front end and the back end, and
Yeah,
the implications it would have for other front end using some of building
so
on some
all the dependencies are computed at by the front end, and only the reference, the 40-byte character string, only that is passed to the assembler to be embedded to the .bomb section. So all the work can be done pretty much in the front end, emitting of the files and also any metadata that is needed. Everything can be handled by the front end itself. So it's pretty much just passing the minimum information that's needed to be embedded into the object file that is passed beyond the front end. So everything else is contained within the front end.
And what kind of input or collaboration are you looking for at this point?
At this point, it's just bunch of independent tasks. I can, if it makes sense, I can add them to the list of issues to be worked on. And then if there are folks interested to explore, pick up any of those and what that'll be, I can do that. I can just split them into small chunks and keep independent activities.
Awesome.
I can do that.
Yes.
I would love that. I'd love to have some small chunks to pick up and get to know the code base.
Okay, sure. I will do that.
Yeah.
My
My unsolicited
also be-
advice, drop either to-dos in the code or issues on GitHub that you think someone else could pick up to help get involved, or if you need, like, if you're looking for testing or supporting different platforms, or the one you mentioned of like start tinkering with linkers, there's great things to just note on the GitHub project so folks can know where to get involved.
Yeah, I will add the issues.
Yeah, I'd be curious if other folks with other kinds of languages other than C and C++ would be interested in poking at the front end and finding other things that would work there.
This Rustation is interested.
I was hoping. Didn't mean to be too absolutely obvious. I tried not to name people.
And if you want some help on the Rust side, ping me, please.
Yeah, Davis noted he has a lot of free time right now.
So I go from doing paid work to unpaid work. Awesome.
Well, one of these is clearly more fun than the other, so.
Yeah. Well, plus I didn't get nearly enough Rust excuses when I was doing the paycheck thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We have a little bit of time left over from that section. So Frederick, I noticed you added a note in here about gitbom-go. Do you want to share any updates there? Keep it to about 5 minutes if you can.
Yeah, it'll take way less time than that. So I've split the gitbom section of the CLI code and the library that performs the heavy lifting into two separate libraries. So this helps in that the gitbom library itself should change less often than the CLI, and it allows them to be versioned separately from each other, so that as I change the CLI over time, it does not impact people who are depending on the library version. And I am also going to look towards building out support in other languages as well, and I intend to use the same pattern where there's a library version there, and if I choose to do a executable version of that, then that would import the library and wrap it as well. So so very, very short news, but just wanted to state that in case people are looking towards trying it out or are tracking it.
Sounds good. Any questions on?
No, I was just going to say it might be worthwhile to try to engage both JVM and .NET engineers in this discussion, because I think each of those environments is slightly different than native compile code.
I am currently trying to get some of the .NET folks here at Microsoft to get involved and join this meeting.
Okay. Let me reach out to some people I know in the Java and Scala communities and see.
And if any of you have .NET community connections, don't let me stop you from reaching out to those folks too.
I have an old contact back from my Scala days. The guy he's one of the people who was on the Java language spec, and I think he's still doing that thing. So I'll see if I can engage him and see if I can get him interested in joining in as well, or at least connecting us with the right people.
Awesome. So moving on to the spec repo, I see Ed put a question in here, and I've got one as well. The TLDR is, I think it's time for us to start working properly on some set of specifications, whether we call this a formal spec and eventually throw it at the IETF or something like that, or not. I think it's still really important for these projects, all of us to start agreeing on what should the directory structure be, what is metadata versus in-tree, and questions like that, and formalizing our process to agree on that as we work through it in different languages and POCs. So the meta discussion is where and how to do that work. I've spun up an empty repo for now for the specification and have a draft PR, not merging it yet, just following some of the guidance from LF's lawyers and Microsoft lawyers on how to license spec work, because it is a little bit different when you're contributing to a spec than when you're contributing source code. And so having a separate license file on the spec repo parallel to the source code repos that are MIT, that was basically their advice. And so if anyone has experience in that space, I'd love your feedback on that PR as I go through and trim it down, trim up a bunch of the stuff in the templates. Please raise your hand, let me know, comment. I'll take silence to me. Nobody here has experience with that, and
I have experience. I have abundant experience, but I do not have cycles. I can't be relied on to deliver it in any reasonable time frame, which I apologize, but I just got to be honest about that. I'm sorry.
I appreciate that, and thank you.
Just know that you're welcome. Whether you can make it or not is up to you. You'll be missed if you don't, but definitely welcome.
Hey, the SPDX community just went through the same thing in the last year. I saw that Kate was on this call last week. William also has some experience there. So we might reach out to them just because they just went through the same process. I can provide some pointers if it helps.
I think, and this is part of why I think splitting out a separate call to work on the standard stuff, we'd get folks like Kate and William more likely to join that call than this one, given their background in standards work.
Makes sense.
And thank you for the suggestion, Jeff.
There's what I'd like to, if possible, bring up the small issue around the URI, URN representations for gitbom, because we've had a couple of suggestions made along the way, and getting, everything works out better when you've got broader input. And so really quickly, this sort of comes down to, and as I said, this is all linked if you want to go review it subsequently, but both SPDX and CycloneDX have reached out and basically said, this looks great, and we've got exactly this place where gitbom would make sense in our SBOMs, but we need to figure out what URN or URI scheme we should use for it. So CycloneDX uses URNs, SPDX uses URIs. If you're familiar with that whole RFC 2396 space of the world, that's close enough that we can probably kill two birds with one stone. And so I've got links into the various pieces, but essentially we get, for URN, we end up with something that looks like a URN colon, something that looks like a scheme if you're doing a URI colon something, right? So very simple structure. So if we do a URI scheme here, then it can be used as URN just by prefixing URN in front of it. And we've had we went through, and I discussed a little bit, I don't want to go too deeply into it, some of the issues with just reusing the software heritage stuff. or at least some reasons why it may be a little bit suboptimal in our case. I did point out that Git is already registered as a scheme with IANA, so we obviously don't want to use Git. And my initial suggestion had been something like gitoid : the hash. So you get something like gitoid SHA-1 or gitoid SHA-256 as that's evolving. And then we had some input from Patrick Dwyer, which I think was really good, saying, maybe something more descriptive like gitbom, which has its advantages as well, right? So you could say something like gitbom SHA-1 or gitbom 256. But it did occur to me we may also want to consider the possibility of being absolutely descriptive in a way of, in a manner that actually is more generic than just gitbom. Because what we're really talking about is the gitoid for a blob using SHA-1 or the gitoid for a blob using SHA-256. And I just realized I should edit my comment because there's a little mistake in it. And so I really want to get feedback from the broader group. Which of these approaches feels good to folks? What pluses and minuses do you see? That kind of stuff.
Just for clarification, gitoid, does that refer to git object ID?
That had been the intention, yes.
Gotcha, cool.
And that was sort of mindful of Santiago's comments from last week. And so I think the two veins are, do we want to do sort of like a gitoid blob hash or a gitbom hash? Do we want to be much more narrow to ourselves, or do we want to try and be fairly generic?
I think it makes sense to be very specific in this case. These are being generated by and for the purpose of gitbom, right? If you just say gitoid, somebody's going to assume it has something to do with Git, which, I think we are already kind of run up against that, is this Git sort of question with the name of the project. I've had to point several people to Ava's document and say, no, look, it's all explained very nicely here. And so I think to minimize the confusion, be very specific about what this is. Unless for some reason you anticipate there's going to be a need for change or a need for it to be more general. But if you don't anticipate there's going to be a need for it to be more general, then go as specific as possible.
Do other folks have other thoughts?
Clarifying question, is the proposal here only in reference to the hash of gitbom documents, the trees themselves, or any object that is hashed, whose hash is stored in a gitbom tree?
Well, so effectively, I think what was being asked for by SPDX and CycloneDX, it was if they're going to refer out to artifacts using the same artifact reference, same artifact ID that gitbom is using, what would they do? And in that case, I think they're referring to the artifacts themselves, not necessarily the gitbom documents.
Great. So then I think they should use Git, which is already registered. And we should also use Git because that is the registered one.
Git means something different. Git means this is the URL for going to point to a Git repo.
Ah.
I sort of pointed to it already being registered specifically because it has a defined meaning that is different and distinct from what we're talking about here, and so we can't use it.
Oh, and that is just updated a couple of weeks ago. Okay, that's why I haven't seen this. No.
Yeah.
Let me find that. The author for that is one of my colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it struck me when I went to go look at it, is because I also looked at who authored it. There's a certain amount of yeoman's work that happens in standards where people just scurry around and go, people have been using this for almost 20 years. We should probably write that down somewhere. And God bless those people because it's important. So we've definitely got a couple of folks who think that being more specific is a good idea here. The reason I had thought a little bit more generically, it was precisely because we are referring to an artifact, and something that is not us can refer to that artifact in the same manner.
Yeah.
But Okay, so it's good to have the feedback.
So
And-
now that I've read the URI scheme for the Git, I think gitoid is fine because we are referring to things in the same way that Git is referring to things. I think it'd be worth reaching out to the Git project to see if they also want to use the same one or have any concerns about us using it. If they are amenable to that and we want to as well, then I think that the one you have highlighted here is a really good one because it also has some, gosh, I hate to say the word, crypto agility in it. But like that SHA-1 is part of the tag is a thing that we may want to rev over time. I think that should be in there. The phrase blob, I don't think that carries semantic value today, but I can't be sure it won't ever in the future.
So I can tell you why I've been thinking in those terms, because if I want to know how to produce this hash over your contents, I need to have access to I need to have the contents so I can get the size and put the contents into the Git object. But I also have to know the type of object you're talking about if I'm computing a gitoid, because it needs to have a header. If for some reason someone wanted to refer to a gitoid of a commit or a gitoid of a tree,
great point.
I didn't want to preclude that.
Got it.
But I think your point about reaching out to the Git community is definitely apropos.
With that clarification, sorry, Vicky.
Oh, no, I just was plus oneing the reaching out to the Git community and coordinating there. And they might already have other ideas that we can piggyback on, right? And making sure that we can collaborate and all be speaking the same language would be great. And if that language ends up using gitoid, well, there's an idea for a logo right there. I don't know what a gitoid looks like, but it sounds really cute.
I agree.
Minimally a mascot.
Yep. And I've been chatting with Dave Thaler about our work with gitbom for a little while, so I'm happy to reach out to him and see if once the Git community and we like this, he wants to go run this up to IANA.
Excellent. Cool. So I appreciate everyone taking the time to sort of have some discussion there. It's one of those things where more discussion produces better outcomes. Trying to just sort of make decisions about this in a vacuum, there are a lot of perspectives that I would not have made up in my own brain. And so I appreciate the discussion. Okay. Next up.
Next up, questions on the site repo. I don't know who put this in. Was it you or Santiago?
I put this in because obviously I want to call attention to the fact that we have a site repo. We're very much interested in receiving input there, but also Santiago had brought up the desire to, and he had 3 or 4 things that he thought would help improve the languaging. The one that sticks the most strongly in my mind would be talking about things in terms of Git object IDs instead of Git references, Git refs. And so I wanted to make sure that if we had not captured this there, or that we did subsequently, Santiago had reached out to me over Slack shortly after this went into the agenda and basically said, been very busy, we'll get it in there. And I'm not sure if it's landed or not, but I don't think we have Santiago today.
Yeah, I don't see Santiago, and I didn't see those issues either.
Okay, so we'll follow up then probably next week.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll come back around to it.
Confirm
Good.
there are no open issues on site.
You're checking?
For the last couple of questions here, I see the community outreach This looks like a pass forward from a previous week's call.
Yes.
Any updates to share there? None from me, but if anyone else has any.
Yeah, none for me. I think it probably got carried forward just so we didn't lose track of it. But I think Viggie's suggestion to go put it someplace better than this is probably an excellent one.
Yep, and it sounds like that spreadsheet might have a couple different groups of communities, package communities, compiler communities, things like that. So I think that's a great one. Hash portability, I think that should move into the standards discussion because we could rat hole on that for this entire hour. It's a worthwhile discussion to have. Maybe we make that a broader conversation on one of these calls in the future and just notify people a week ahead of time, see who shows up.
Yeah, I think these are things I added at the bottom just because we talked about them further up the agenda and didn't want them to get disappeared. But at the time we were, I think, in the middle of demos and trying to manage your time a little bit. So
awesome. Well, we've got 3 minutes left, so probably not a good time to jump into any of them in detail. Anyone have parting questions, last minute things to share?
Just one last minute thing to share. As some of you might have seen on Twitter, I'm now officially in the Azure office of the CTO and will be working directly with Ava on gitbom and other stuff. So very excited about that.
I am so excited.
Congratulations.
Barely containing it.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay, well, let's go ahead and end a few minutes early then. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Have a great week, everyone.
Bye, thanks.
Bye.